children of all ages, welcome to the Catholic Citizen this week as we cover, again, this week's news from a Catholic perspective. And I'm going to be talking about a French poet and his conversion to Catholicism, his conversion to Christ because of a little stop in a church. We'll talk about those drones and what's going on recently there. But I also want to touch on the tragic situation of a school shooting in Wisconsin at Abundant Life Christian School. These things simply have to end, and we have to get to the root of why these shootings are happening all this week on the Catholic Citizen. Well, friends, welcome back. It's great to have you. I love doing this show, and I hope you enjoy watching. Again, we're going to have a little opportunity here at the end of the show to talk about things that we're not going to talk about during the main show. And you can see that kind of after show if you want, simply by making a $1, $5, $10 donation to ensure that we can keep the lights on here at Awaken Catholic Studios.
Ideally, a recurring monthly one.
And if you have a business, so I stopped at Novel Blends today. You can also sponsor the show. I'll mention you on the show. Novel Blends does not sponsor the show. However, Novel Blends, if you're watching, your coffee cup could be on this table every single week if you want to. Great coffee in downtown BG. Please stop by and patron Novel Blends. A great family owns a place. All right, let's get to the top 5 stories of the week, and then we'll have a little after show. I enjoy the after show. I kind of sit back. I can roll up the sleeves, and we can just have a great conversation together. But first, I want to cover the tragic shooting out of Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, earlier this week, a private Christian school where a 15-year-old female student shot individuals at the school. Unfortunately, there was 2 deaths. A staff member was killed, as well as another student killed in the attack. Investigators that were, looking into the background, why the shooting took place, and it's frustrating because I feel like in some of the shootings we know almost immediately, what was going on and why. And I think sometimes particular shootings, as awful as this sounds, it's just a reality. Particular shootings, if they fit a particular narrative that a particular group of individuals want to push forward, it seems like we have more information about that, particular shooting. So you have the CEO shooting just the other week, and we know everything about the shooter. We know his motives, and there's almost this evil that's perpetrated to justify what that man did in shooting the CEO of United Healthcare. In this particular school shooting, we don't know exactly all the details behind it yet. It took place, again, at an Abundant Life Christian School, so we don't know the motivations behind it. But we still don't know, for example, different motivations of shooters in previous school shootings. And it's unfortunate. We deserve to have kind of all this information. But the one thing that I want to draw out of this, I don't want to enter into the gun debate here and things of that nature. I think everybody has a Second Amendment right when it comes to this country. It's foundational what we believe in. We've had guns in this country for many years. This school shooting phenomenon is really new to our country in many ways over the past 30 years or so. But this young person, this 15-year-old female student at the center of the investigation, who she herself was found dead after the shooting, it's reported by the Washington Post that she had a turbulent home life, citing court records that it obtained, which shows that her parents divorced and remarried, divorced and remarried multiple times, and she herself had been enrolled in therapies. The parents' custody agreements sometimes forced her to move between their homes every 2 to 3 days. Now, again, we can't necessarily point to motivation for the shooting yet. We don't know the whole story, but we certainly see in this particular shooting, as we see in many of the other shootings, that there is a turbulent home life. There is maybe a father who's not involved in the picture. And I think, again, when we look at our social ills, what's going on in our culture and our society, why do people do bad things? If the home breaks down, there is more of a likelihood that things are going to break down across the culture. And certainly in this particular case, we have someone who had a turbulent home life, divorce in their family, struggled in many ways with that divorce, and this heinous act was committed. Pray for all the families, all the victims in this tragic case. This needs to end. It needs to stop. And we need to ensure that we do the best we can, starting first and foremost in our homes. Nick, you want to say something?
I do. Yeah. So everything you just said is beautiful, Peter. I want to say in my own upbringing, I was brought up in a divorced context, unfortunately. And we had to move based on the custody arrangements. once a week we would switch houses. We kind of lived out of a duffel bag. By the grace of God, it wasn't every 2 to 3 days like it might have been for this girl. But I haven't murdered anyone. And so I just want, if you are a parent in a situation where you're dealing with custody stuff because of a divorce, don't necessarily think like, oh no, my kid's going to go totally crazy. But what I do think is important is we have to remember, like, if anything, allow this situation to call to mind how significant it is for prioritizing your children and your childbearing, prioritizing your child as like the priority. You know, kids often in the context of custody battles and divorces, they get kind of pawned around. They're essentially these objects that the parents fight over. And sometimes as the child, you do feel that, even if you don't know how to put words to it. So I just want to stress, even especially in the context of a divorce and custody battles, make sure that you're attentive to your children. If I've heard any lament from my divorced parents continually, even recently, it's brought up again, how much lament there is for not taking into consideration more the experience of the child and what mattered to them and what they were going through. So I just want to say, like, if you can avoid a divorce, that would be great too, because like Peter's saying, the family is the bedrock of society, and it's just avoid divorce. If you're in a divorce situation, make sure you are not accidentally, inadvertently ignoring the needs and the priorities of your children. That's all.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't say there's direct causation here, right? That there's a divorced family, and so that causes her to directly go out and create this or commit this heinous act. But we can say in a lot of statistical categories, including violence, that there is correlation. When the family breaks down, then we see more teen violence, for example, in a particular home or neighborhood. When there is single family households, when there is divorced couples, so single family households as well, divorced couples, we see higher levels of individuals' likelihood to go to prison, to commit violence, to end up in an unplanned pregnancy, and to have lower educational achievement outcomes when you grow up in a single-family household or a divorced parent household. So it's not condemning anyone. It's just pointing to the reality that married families intact with a mom and a dad that love each other and love their kids, that is the ideal situation. That's the ideal situation we're all aiming towards. And when we see that break down, then we see culture and society break down as well. And so that correlation we have to call out and we have to be truthful about in a non-condemning way, but also in a truthful way that yes, there is an ideal, and that's the ideal we should all work towards at the end of the day. Speaking of ideals, ideally, we don't have wars in this country. And again, just want to cover, there is 11,000 soldiers from North Korea that are now engaged in active fighting in Ukraine. Folks, this is drawing us closer to a world war when you have different soldiers from different countries fighting across the globe. Very quickly could spark into something very evil. And the reality that 30 North Korean soldiers were just killed in the last couple of days, as well as 700 casualties that they've experienced, who knows what Kim Jong-il will do. North Korea has around 50 nuclear weapons. This is just simply dangerous, and another reason why we should not be sending billions of dollars to Eastern Europe, firing United States-made missiles by United States soldiers into Russia, which could again spark a nuclear confrontation. It's dangerous. We need to pull out, and we praise and we hope that President Trump will fulfill the campaign promise to end this war as soon as he is in office. Now, speaking of just things that are taking place that we don't administrate, a lot of things right now from the American public, but you have this drone situation. So the third story, and it's now in Ohio. So at Wright Pat Air Force Base in Dayton, there's been these drones that have been sighted. And we've been told on Monday, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Department of Defense all said together that they recognize the concern from the general public, but there's no evidence that the drones are anomalous or a threat to public safety or to U.S. national security. Fine. What are they doing up there? President Trump came out and presumably he's receiving security briefings at this point. And he gives us more information than we've heard from the current administration with a couple sentences. He said, the government knows what is happening. Trump said, after Biden representatives have, refused to say anything. He says, look, our military knows where they come from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. Why? What is going on? Well, we also have some other information that's been leaked. Possibly this is why. Belleville, New Jersey Mayor Michael Melham just said recently that the mysterious drone sightings in New Jersey may be linked to missing radioactive material. NBC reports missing radioactive material in New Jersey when an empty damaged container arrived in the port of New York. And presumably this radioactive material could be very dangerous. We also have some missing nuclear material, I guess, in eastern Ukraine. They don't know where this is at, and possibly now it's in the United States of America. And these drones presumably could be trying to sense or sniff out where this radioactive material at nighttime could be traveling, because there's no other reason they would be up there during the nighttime in particular. But either way, we deserve to know the truth, including just recently, there was another lab leak with dangerous vials of biochemicals being stolen out of a lab in Australia, stealing some biochemical weapons that could have over a 50% death rate. Again, you don't hear about this in mainstream media, but these are things that we deserve to know about and be prepared for when it comes to what could be next in our country. But, again, it wouldn't surprise me if some of these things are used to kind of deter President Trump's domestic agenda for the years to come. We pray that is not the case. Speaking of President Trump's domestic agenda, though, I can take a deep sigh of relief. One of the things I've talked about on the show is concern for Robert Kennedy, who said he's basically pro-abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy, being nominated to be Health and Human Services Secretary. Well, good news. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, pro-life champion. If there's anybody in Congress that I really support, respect, admire, Senator Josh Hawley is one of those guys. He's got a chance to sit down with Robert Kennedy. And four key things that came from that conversation: he committed to reinstate President Trump's pro-life policies at HHS, including reinstating the Mexico City policy, ending taxpayer funding of abortion from around the globe. Also supporting reinstating the bar on Title X funds that go to organizations that promote abortion, like Planned Parenthood. So that's one. Secondly, he's pledged to reverse the Biden administration Section 1557 rule, and also said that all of his deputies at HHS would be pro-life. Huge. Third, he also pledged to reinstate conscience protections for healthcare providers. So the fact that Robert Kennedy is making these promises in public now before United States senators is a really, really good thing. And it shows that there's enough pro-life pressure in the administration that Robert Kennedy understands and knows that the Trump administration will be a pro-life administration. Now, I had an abolitionist online, and I don't like the fact that they've been able to kind of capture the term. I consider myself an abolitionist, but they said, what's to celebrate, when I was at the electors just in downtown Columbus the other day, where Democracy at Work, 17 electors elected President Trump to be the president from the state of Ohio. And the abolitionists online said, well, what's there to celebrate? This is what is to celebrate: the fact that we're putting pro-life laws and pro-life codes in place in the federal government, and pro-life people in positions of power. Now, again, it's not abolishing abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. That's our ultimate goal. But I will take progress rather than going the other way and having people prosecuted simply for their pro-life beliefs. All right, last story. And again, this is another reason I'm celebrating, because right now, President Biden, Catholic president, Joe Biden, is pressuring the Sierra Leone country there in Africa to pass an unpopular pro-abortion bill before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. And he is withholding aid from the United States government unless Sierra Leone passes this pro-abortion bill that decriminalizes abortion. The Sierra Leone Compact is a 5-year, $480 million agreement between the United States Millennium Challenge Corporation, or MCC, and Sierra Leone, aimed at providing affordable electricity. The MCC did not respond to the Daily Signal's request for comment. But basically, this $480 million package from this non-governmental organization comes from the United States government, is being withheld, that would help Sierra Leone with electricity unless they fully embrace abortion policies. Chris Smith, a Republican from New Jersey, said it is deeply disturbing, but not terribly surprising that we are hearing reports that the Biden administration is threatening to withhold foreign assistance to Sierra Leone unless legislators there pass the deceptively named Safe Motherhood Act, legislation that would legalize abortion in Sierra Leone, a country that currently protects unborn life. Again, it's the difference that a pro-life administration makes. All right, last story then before Christmas. And I hope you have a wonderful Christmas with your family and friends. I hope you eat a little bit too much. And I hope you spend some time maybe finding ways that you can help those who have a little less than you do. It's not too late to do that. Spend this time, these remaining days, praying to the Lord, maybe to introduce you to somebody who's lonely, who's in need of food or just some material assistance, whatever it may be, and give back a little bit during this Christmas season. But I hope you have a conversion this Christmas, whether you've been Catholic your whole life or you're Christian or you're not of any faith denomination at this time. But I hope you have a conversion like Paul Claudel. So final story before we get to our after show. He's one of the most acclaimed poets and playwrights ever in France and in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Now, I don't know because of the renovations they did, whether it's still there, but before the renovations, at least, there was a little inscription in the chapel that reads this: December 25th, 1886, conversion of de Paul Claudel Magnificat. Now, what is that inscription about? Well, one Christmas night, the French poet was wandering France there, and he just happened to wander into Notre Dame on a whim on Christmas evening of 1886 during Vespers, when the Magnificat from Luke chapter 1 was being sung. And Mother Mary brought a wayward son home. Claudel never ceased to be amazed at the quickness of his conversion. He said, just like that, he believed. It was like lightning strike. Later, he described the experience writing, quote, "It was the gloomiest winter day and the darkest rainy afternoon over Paris." He remembers with a picture-perfect clarity that he was standing near the second pillar at the entrance to the chancel as the Magnificat was sung. The fact that he was standing is an interesting detail. It reveals that he was still a visitor in that particular space. He was uncomfortable enough to kneel down and pray, to make himself at home and stay a while. But Claudel's attitude shifted instantly as he said, quote, "Then occurred the event which dominates my entire life. In an instant, my heart was touched, and I believed. I believed with such a strength of adherence, with such an uplifting of my entire being, with such powerful conviction, with such a certainty, leaving no room for any kind of doubt, that since then all the books, all the arguments, all the incidences and accidents of a busy life have been unable to shake my faith, nor indeed to affect it in any way." He had met his mother that night, and what son would ever doubt his mother? May Mother Mary, may Saint Joseph, may the baby Jesus, may the Holy Family just surround you with their warmth, their love, and their truth this Christmas, so that you may know the truth, and the truth, like it did to Paul Claudel, will set you free. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Make sure to join us in the after party, the after show, backstage exclusive, by becoming a patron of the Catholic Citizen, supporting the work that we're doing here, the hard work and the glorious work of Mr. Peter Range. Isn't he handsome? Anyway, visit thecatholicitizen.com to become a patron. You'll also get access to last week's backstage episode, which was, let me tell you, particularly spicy. Anyways, what are we talking about today, Peter?
It's going to be just as spicy. It's maybe the spiciest book you've never read. It's the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which is fantastic, but it's going to be spicy. It's very good. It's very good.
Okay.
So please join us for the after show. We're going to talk about, something in the Catechism.
Well, but what? It's such a big book.
I'm not going to give it away. You got to pay. Yeah, this is part of the deal. You
want to give us a teaser though?
$1.
What's the
Yes.
The je ne sais quoi?
I will give a little teaser. It's about God. And you're going to want to come to the show. $5, $1, 50 cents, whatever it is. Guys, we love doing the show. We know that you love watching the show, so why not pay $1 to come join us in the after show? Again, it's not about the money. It is just simply we got to keep the lights on, so please join us at thecatholiccitizen.com. Become a patron today. Make a donation, sign up. You'll get an email, and then you'll have access to all the after show that we do. Again, it's a time to roll up the sleeves. It's not a long time. It's like 5 minutes, but it's worth it. So join us.
I will say, though, that we had talked about letting people that make a one-time donation, letting them into the backstage for now.
Sure.
But eventually that's going to change to just being the recurring patrons. So if you want to make sure that you get in perpetuity access to this stuff, make a monthly donation. Choose that option. All right, Peter, do you want to sign us off one more time?
No, I loved my ending until you stopped it. So
it is what it is.
It's all good. It's all good. Merry Christmas, everybody. We love you.